the very least, we could get them some new furniture or something. But definitely more police vehicles. I'm all for that. I had some question about all the studies that we're talking about doing, and you know, in terms of so if we say yes, I want to do an infrastructure analysis for $120,000. That money comes out of the general fund for this year?
No.
Okay.
Very good question. Thank you for asking. That money would be equally divided between general fund as well as our enterprise fund. So it's really not a big hit to the general fund, because you would be looking at water infrastructure, wastewater, and electric. So actually, that's probably the one that's going to have the least impact to you in the general fund, because you're not going to pay for that completely.
Okay. Thank you.
I had a couple of follow-up questions. Sorry about that. You have 2 placeholders for 2 new positions in city governments, a CIP manager.
I actually was recommending that we hold off until, given everything we have that we're presenting,
Okay.
and that we hold off and wait until 2017 to evaluate those.
Okay.
Those were the 2 things that, in the council discussions that the governing body brought up. My recommendation is that we wait until the next budget year, 2017.
That's probably the smart thing to do.
So no funding is allocated for those positions.
And then there was a city hall roof.
Yes,
Question.
we have some problems with the roof that, I think, did you do an assessment, kind of a structural,
Yeah.
a little bit of an assessment?
Well, the roof isn't failing, it's just underperforming, would be the term. We do have a series of leaks. It's something that we need to address fairly soon. When you talk about asset and infrastructure management, this is something we need to do.
Well, I know that we've had a lot of mold discussions around the city with residential properties. With the amount of rain that we've been having, you know, your roof is probably your most important asset.
Yes.
When it comes to your building structure, especially in weather.
Protecting our IT infrastructure especially.
And that too, yeah, IT, we got a lot of electronic equipment we just added, so.
And by the time we spread that in a debt service, that's very small impact.
Negligible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a project worth making an investment so it doesn't continue to escalate to being a more expensive project.
Okay. And then if we were to, we've given you direction on these.
Yes, I have.
Clear.
Okay.
The 20, and I heard one councilman say that we want to do the park studies, so is that kind of a consensus, or is there an additional dialogue on
Parks
that?
and Public Works?
Yes.
Building study?
Any additional dialogue on whether we do that?
My opinion is go ahead and leave it in, but depending on how some of this other stuff pans out,
Okay.
I mean,
If we don't have the money
Well,
for it, I
and-
mean, what's the point of doing the study if we can't,
Well-
I mean, it just sits there on a shelf.
Well,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
why we're.
Well, and I don't think there again, I don't think we're at a point in this year's budget discussion where we're talking about either or.
right.
Right,
That's
okay.
I would make a recommendation, I don't know if the rest of the council and the mayor feels this way, but Southwest Johnson County EDC, $55,000, I really don't see a need for that. Based on when he was here that night, he couldn't give me anything that he had done, or they had done really, to point out besides they're getting a new website. I mean, I can get a new website too, and we can charge, I only charge $30,000. I mean, to me, that, I want results before I spend $55,000 of people's money. And although I'm not ecstatic about $20,000 to the Gardner Chamber, I at least see them as being out there and doing things, at least for the community. So
I disagree. I mean, the EDC is, you know, we want to portray the image that we're business, open for business, business friendly. I mean, that's a pretty vital cog in how everything works. And if we turn that away, I don't think that's a good decision. I mean,
I'm with Todd on that. That's, you know, considering all the, I mean, it's considered like a fishing trip. We've comprehensive plan, strategic plan, incentive policy. It's like we put all the tackle in the boat, and You know, that's like pulling one of the lines out of the water if you're going deep sea fishing.
Yeah.
At this point, we can't afford the airfare to get down there.
Is
Go
this,
deep sea fishing.
I mean,
Sure we can.
this isn't negotiable now. I mean, they came to us and asked us for 55.
Well,
That's a 29% increase over what we gave them last year. Have they done something different?
you know, I actually, I thought they articulated pretty well what they were going to do differently this year.
Right.
Going,
And,
yeah.
you know, if we don't fund them appropriately, they're not going to be able to do that probably. And, you know, the EDC board and the selection committee that chose Greg Martinet as the next president, I mean, they did so for a reason. And the city actually played a nice role in that because small organization, they don't have any in-house HR. We lent a lot of HR. Cheryl served on the selection committee. We've got a good person, and he's got existing relationships in the city, the metro area, and he's got somebody that he works with that he wants to be able to work more. I don't know if you've heard Krista Claus on the radio or saw her on the TV years ago, but the bottom line is that she's got name recognition with business people in the area, especially when she's doing business retention and expansion stuff. If she makes a phone call to somebody that's a current, you know, investor in the EDC, it's much more likely that she's going to get a call back than if Joe Schmo's calling.
I understand. I'm in sales. I mean, I've been in sales forever, and I get paid on performance, not on what I think I'm gonna do all this fancy stuff for you. And that's where I have a problem.
Well, I know, he's not a small business owner, and he's not and he's not a commission sales rep.
Maybe we should go hire one of those.
Steve, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, here's the thing about EDC, and I've been vacillating on the whole 55,000 thing. But I think that, you know, we need to accept responsibility for some of the reasons why EDC has not been as effective with us as they should have been. We've not had a plan, we've not had goals, we've not had mechanisms to achieve them. If EDC were to have somebody coming into this area who wants to talk to Gardner, we've had nothing to tell them, guys. This is you know, there's two sides to this equation. One is having somebody coming in and knocking on our door and getting somebody to come in to knock on our door. The second one is having somebody answer our door. We haven't been answering our door. So we could talk about metrics, and I want metrics, don't get me wrong. But the metrics have to measure not only contacts, but also, you know, what we've been doing internally to try to close those contacts. It's not all EDC. We've got to do part of this ourselves.
Yeah.
We just
Okay?
hired
And
we again,
But-
we don't have a history there. So, you know, I understand the whole Krista Claus thing. The 55,000 seems high to me, okay? And we're hiring not we, but the EDC is hiring professional staff. They're ramping up for development. We're about to talk about ramping up the city for development, you know? And that's gonna be a much bigger price tag than $55,000. And so, I'm thinking, you know, and maybe I don't have a consensus on the dais here, but, I mean, we don't have the ability to self-perform this right now. We just don't. If we were to hire somebody on retainer, it's gonna probably cost us $55,000, easily. So, you know,
And
let's go with EDC, give Greg the ability to implement what he needs to implement. And if it doesn't work a year from now, we can make that decision at that point.
Christie?
Go, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, honestly, I've been sitting up here, I get the frustration with the EDC because we can say, give it to them this year and let's see if they, function and perform for next year. We said that last year. I mean, so, I was a little bit, caught off guard by the ask for $55,000. I believe in partnering with the EDC. I agree with Steve in that, some of this lack of direction is partly our fault internally. But this is one of those things, I mean, I was actually gonna recommend that we decrease it at a minimum to 25, I mean, I would even be fine with 25,000, and I know they don't like to hear this. Okay, you start delivering something, and we may increase it.
Right.
But I just don't, we've all experienced frustration the last couple of years, every single one of us. So, just,
Please.
I mean, we've all experienced it, so just to assume something's gonna change overnight, I'm not saying it won't, but let's then put your money where your mouth is, and let's
Yeah.
see what happens.
That's a good point. Is there a possibility that we could ask them for, maybe a performance bonus, structure, so that we
Incentive
guarantee?
structure?
Yeah, we guarantee
Let
a
me-
certain amount, that if you meet certain criteria by the end of the year, you get another amount.
Pay for performance.
Exactly.
Okay, hold on. Cheryl, you've got more experience in economic development world than I do, and is this, what we're talking about here? I think it's pretty non-standard, not necessarily, I'm looking for a little expertise from your side of the desk.
It is a difficult area. It's probably, a little bit easier if we have some particular things that we'd like performed, if we kind of indicate what we'd like, how we'd like those resources allocated. But it is very difficult, because a lot of the economic development stuff is, particularly when you talk about contacts and negotiation, it's information that isn't public.
Yeah. Here's the other thing about this, and making a decision on it right now. Larry Powell starts next Monday.
Correct.
He's our new Business and Economic Development Director. We don't have his take on it. I've always been a firm believer in that you can, and especially this early in the process, where we're not voting to do anything yet, but the concerns can be relayed to the EDC. Maybe they can give a better, more well-formed plan that satisfies people, or maybe they don't. Maybe we talk to Larry Powell and get his expertise, it's what we hired him for, and see what he has to say. I don't think that we trim the amount right at this meeting. I think we at least get Larry's opinion, and maybe give Greg a chance to come back around. He is new, just like Jason's new, and he's getting to know us, and maybe he needs to understand that if he's going to ask for more money, he's better be making a more compelling case than he's obviously made so far.
I would agree.
And you
Is
have.
that fair enough?
I'm fine with that.
And you have until August, because even when we present it to you next month, it's just a matter of, here's what we think, it's still a placeholder. You have until August, we'll give you the budget in August for adoption. So really, this is early, we're on the front end doing earlier interaction.
Okay. So we good on that? Okay. Anything else? Because if not, we can get to our next, we're going to get to our next presentation item, and it's only 8:15. All right, so presentation item number 3 is an overview of infrastructure for growth east of the I-35 interchanges. And Cheryl, welcome back to the podium.
Okay. The overview of the infrastructure for growth on the east side of the interstate aligns with our goals of economic development and fiscal stewardship. We've talked a lot about the appropriate mix between residential and non-residential development, and to need to have an appropriate balance. The council previously expressed some interest in expanding infrastructure development east of I-35 for future growth and economic development. Tonight, what we're going to provide you is a preliminary overview of the needs with some general order of magnitude cost to be able to serve this area. I'd like to talk about two meetings that we've held. We've held one with property owners at at Gardner Road and I-35, and we have one scheduled for 175th Street and I-35 next week. A summary of the first meeting was included in your council agenda packet. A summary of the second meeting for Gardner Road has been placed at your seats. In addition, I'd like to talk about some development interests that we've received at 175th Street, east of the interstate. We have been asked to look at whether or not we could serve the area. We know that the county's had some interest in being able to provide some development opportunities also for the area around 175th. The comprehensive plan we talked about being adopted in September, it addressed this area and showed the southeast quadrant, which is basically an area that would be a significant factor in influencing the future land use and development. At the time the comprehensive plan was developed, the detailed land uses were not identified, and the consultant that prepared that talked about looking at the emerging market demand and the investment and developing land uses afterwards. So we have an opportunity to solidify the future of Gardner forever and provide a mechanism to relieve the tax burden for our existing and future residents. If you take a look at the map, the southeast quadrant area, if you look at the approximate acreage as it compares to the city of Gardner, you'll see it is massive. I want to remind you that residential doesn't pay its way. Even when the homes are $1 million, we talked about that. We've shown you those numbers before in previous workshops and presentations. So this is an opportunity for us to create a future revenue stream that will pay for existing and future infrastructure needs. Regarding the southeast quadrant, two opportunities exist. There's an opportunity to react to the development pressure, as shown with the proposed development project highlighted here in red, right at the interchange. And there's an opportunity to proactively evaluate the entire southeast quadrant area. The need to serve this area involves looking at water, wastewater, electric, as well as the transportation network for development and upgrades. So Brian is going to walk through each of the infrastructure needs, provide you with an overview, and then afterwards I'll come back and let you know what we're looking for in terms of consensus tonight.
Picture. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to go back to this slide really quickly. The southeast quadrant is about 4,200 acres. What we did is the total land area within the city of Gardner right now is 6,300. We actually flipped the quadrants to show how much of that proposed area covers the city of Gardner now. Just to get you a feel for this, it's a huge area. It's 2/3 the size of Gardner now, and it will take, we feel, a number of years for this to develop. I do feel that this part of the presentation is really important, that it be interactive. Okay, this part of the presentation, I hope, is very interactive. We have people from Public Works and Utilities here tonight. I think we'll all get better answers if you guys can have a little interchange back and forth with us as we go through the process. When I talk about water or sanitary, those types of things, if you got a question, go ahead and ask. You don't have to wait to the end of the presentation. Tonight we're going to talk, as Cheryl mentioned, about our infrastructure needs. From the city's perspective, what we're really talking about are water, wastewater, electric, transportation, and one thing that I've added, it's not really frequently talked about, is stormwater. It's also something critical that we look at. For each item tonight, we'll look at the overall quadrants, and then a more tightly focused area, that based on this initial development that pressure that we've had. Water is the one item, the slide before you, water is the one item that is not within our ultimate service area. As you can see by this picture, there's a split between Water 1 and Johnson County number 7. The city of Gardner at this point does not have the option to serve this side. With that said, Water 1, the dark blue line on the right side, Water 1 has a major project. They're running a main transmission main down Hedge Lane and turning east and going towards Spring Hill. There's developmental pressure from them on the 220-acre tract immediately to the west of that. And what we're hearing is that there's a developer that would like to extend the water main westward along his property line. And so we're talking to you tonight about its possibility of the city going in with that developer and with Water 1 and possibly Water 7 to upsize that line and run it to I-35 with the alignment we show here is running it to Clare Road, down Clare about a half mile, and then over to 35, punch under I-35 and tie into our existing system. While we are not the service provider in this area, we can help facilitate the extension of the transmission main that will help serve the area and that will provide an interconnect to our existing water system. Staff would like to work together with the developer in Water 1 to plan for a tie-in or extension to the city system. I was actually recently asked what the biggest challenge to the city was as far as what I saw, and quite honestly, in my opinion, it's water. Strategic goal for the city is economic development. The existing water plant is peaking out. If I don't have another way to provide water, economic development doesn't occur. So from my perspective, an interconnect with Water 1 or Olathe provides the ability to buy us time to see what we're going to do.
I have a question about this.
Sure.
Brian. Water is critically important, you're absolutely correct. And we had been discussing before doing an interconnect with either Water 1 or Water 7 at some point on the east side of town because we needed to have that capacity.
Correct.
So we're killing two birds with one stone here in upsizing this main and getting it over to our east side connect. The question I have is, what's the difference between an 18-inch main and a 24-inch main? And is that just development driven? Are we talking about, okay, if we want to have more development, are we going to look for a 24-inch main, or what?
Actually, quite honestly, I'd be pushing for a 24, and we actually meet with Water 7 Wednesday to talk about this area. They're very interested. They don't have the capability right now to serve it as they would like. So this is one of the ones that they would probably partner with us. But I'm looking, the current main coming from the water plant down to Hillsdale is an 18-inch main. So with that 18-inch main, we can push 4 million gallons. But as the city grows,
There won't be as much pressure.
Well, I think the 24 would be the way to go, just because you're at that size of pipe, it's not that much more to put the big ones in.
Correct.
right. I mean, and that's when we talk about upsizing agreements. I mean, somebody's digging the ditch already.
Yeah.
Someone's paying for a pipe.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, a lot of times it's a difference in pipe size. You pay for that difference because everything else is the same.
The marginal cost is
Right.
not nearly as much as it would be to run a second line.
And when you look at the size, the 18 to 24 inch, I worked with Miami County number 2 today on cost, and what they're paying is roughly $90 to $100 a square foot, or a linear foot, which does include easement acquisition. The nice thing about it doesn't have to be a deep area. It's not like a sewer line that may be 18 feet deep. This is 42-inch type of pipe, so you're not going to probably hit that much rock. Quite honestly, the biggest cost of this is punching under the interstate. KDOT's going to require that pipe be in a casing pipe the full width of the right-of-way. So it's a fairly substantial cost.
So what about the difference in between just providing to the development and stopping? I mean, is that a viable option, and then going back later and punching under the interstate, or?
Oh, very definitely. I mean, the concern I have is when we're out there working, I mean, we are pushing the plant. I mean, obviously this spring, we haven't had a lot of irrigation needs within the city. But I think last year we hit about 3.85 million gallons in one day. It's a 4 million gallon plant if we're really, really, really lucky. So, I mean, it doesn't take a lot to hit that 4 million gallons.
Is
So I
the
feel
one-
real comfortable if we got it that quickly.
The main project that we show on this picture here, is that the one they're doing right now that's going over by the scales? Where they're
Yeah, actually, that's actually all part of it. There, if you drive off 175th Street, you'll also see, I haven't been there recently, but there's a lot of pipeline on the north side.
Yep.
And this one all the way to the north too. It's a big project. I think they're punching a 54 or 60 inch under the highway.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a big project.
they've done that like 3 times.
Yep.
They punched that whole bunch.
Sanitary sewer. Sanitary sewer is actually one of the most difficult and costly services to provide. You can get them water, you can get them electric, you got a road network kind of out there. We don't have sanitary sewer. Yeah, and that's one, like I said, one of the most expensive to provide. Sanitary sewers typically follow the watershed, basically the low point in the ground. So they would parallel streams if we were flowing by gravity. What you see before you here in the green lines, that's kind of the creek. That's pretty close to where the sanitary would be if we could put it in by gravity. One thing I would note is if you have a choice, you'd actually like to develop from the bottom of the watershed and go up. And this one, we have a developer that's looking to develop at the very top of the watershed, so we have no infrastructure in place for him. Also like to say, you know, when you're looking at the size of this whole area, the area that we anticipate growing first are at the interchanges. The place we anticipate growing last is at the very southeast corner. And when you look at the sewer, all the sewer goes to the southeast corner.
What size pipe are you looking at for that? I mean, just for planning in the future, I mean, you think
Oof.
if that whole thing got developed,
And Mark's here today. I mean, when you look at that size of, you're probably talking 30, 36 inch.
right,
Thirty
so,
was only 100 and, what we cut across
190.
91st.
Yeah, it's 30 inch.
right, okay, that's what I'm,
And the problem with, you know, gravity from our perspective, gravity is the only way to go. We have 20 lift stations in this town. Every one of those requires a visit every day. When we had, the minute memo that went out last week, we talked about 175 alarms. We had guys that started working Saturday morning, and by Tuesday morning, they had 42 hours in. And then we did that again the next week. So, I mean, if we can eliminate lift stations and put in gravity, but when you put in gravity, you're fighting grades and you're fighting rock, because that typically goes pretty deep. With that said, if you wanted to look at just what it would take to do the proposed developments, we have up here highlighted in a kind of a red color. The cheapest solution is they would design their site by gravity. They would flow to the low points. There'd be a lift station put there, and then we have to pump it somewhere to our system. Right now, what we show is the south lift station. The alignment right now we show is pretty much paralleling KDOT right of way. We're still working with KDOT to see if that's something they would be supportive of. But you could also run straight south and then over. One of the options that we looked at is we talked a lot with the city of Olathe. The developer has also talked with the city of Olathe about punching it up and over 175th Street. 175th is a ridgeline road. Almost everything that's north of 175th flows to the north. Everything south flows south. And so when the city of Olathe designed their sewer system, they didn't really take into account areas on the south side because that didn't naturally flow that way. They have done some work in their system and found out they have a little more capacity because it was not developing as they anticipated. And that's a great thing because maybe we can push a little bit of ours over. But in talking with them about this proposed development, they felt they could serve part of it forever, but not all of it. And so it's a real risk. If you go up and over the hill and they have all of a sudden have development pressure, they can tell us to disconnect. So it is an option that may buy us some time to figure out our system. but that's out there.
With this, we have to have the tank over here, but the lift station, we wait for any of this stuff to be,
Yeah, I mean, we put a wet well in there.
because we're at capacity right now on that lift station as far as, because of transferring back and forth, is that correct?
Right, if you look at the south lift station, I think we talked about it a few months ago, about it,
Yeah.
actually in the budget process of upsizing a,
Right.
overflow tank at the south lift station. Right now, quite a bit of the area north of I-35, actually, again, the watershed, it flows under I-35 to a pump station, and we turn around and pump it back north. And so we're maxed out on that right now, so there'd have to be improvements associated with that.
Question I had about this force main that's going up, I-35 along the right-of-way,
Mhm.
which we don't have approved by KDOT yet.
Correct.
This is a temporary fix. Is
Well, as shown here, that's a throwaway.
it's throwaway, it's
Right.
not gonna be infrastructure we're gonna keep.
Right. And so the question is, I mean, this is, if you look at, this is about a $2.8 million investment for the city. And it's pretty temporary.
Yeah, it is.
Is it something this, I mean, this is kind of the minimum. The maximum is north of 20 million. I mean, you just had huge range there. This is something that we could do on the cheapest possible, but we may want to look at, if you look down to 191st, even 183rd Street, you'll see two watersheds intersect, kind of right at 183rd.
Yeah.
I mean, we could open up additional development. That's the problem with this option. This serves that development.
And only that development.
Yeah, if this spurs additional development, oops, you know, we'll have to.
We're right back
rethink.
to building out the big build anyway.
Right. So, I mean, you can design it so you put in as much gravity as you can in each new development, again, but you don't know how they're gonna come. If they're gonna be sequential from top down, or if all of a sudden you're gonna have somebody in the middle, you're gonna have someone at the bottom.
Now, just as a layman's look at this, it makes sense, instead of doing the force main along I-35, to take gravity down to 191st and punch a force main down 191st. It's a shorter distance, and we keep the infrastructure for the gravity main.
Correct.
So, I think there'll be a lower cost alternative. I mean, personally.
Well, long-term, it's lower
Long-term.
cost, or initially it's more, because the gravity lines are deep.
Sure.
A force main, again, that's one of those buried at 42 inches. Because it's, you know, it's moving, so you just try to have to worry about the freeze, but you don't have to worry about grade.
Correct.
We'd love to run it down to 191st.
That would make more
Again, that's
sense.
pretty expensive.
But it would make more sense. I mean, if we want to keep infrastructure and be able to hold
Well,
that
Cheryl has a
all
problem,
development off.
Cheryl has a problem with me, if I had it, I'd put a new sewer plant on Hillsdale and put in about 20 miles of gravity line. So, I mean, the ultimate solution is something like that. I mean, quite honestly, and that's actually, if you look at the Johnson County wastewater master plan from a few years back,
Yep,
that's what they showed. If you put this, a lift station or a treatment plant down far enough to the south, it
Mhm.
actually picks up Spring Hill.
sure.
If you're looking at getting loans through KDHE, KDOT said the same thing, what are they looking for? Regional. Right now, this is all the city. If we go a little bit further to the south, pick up Johnson County, Spring Hill, there's advantages to doing that, to spread the cost.
Well, I think from the standpoint of economic development, they want to see this area grow.
Right.
They want to have the infrastructure in place. Maybe we could do some cooperative financing on this if we were to regional, I mean, does that make any sense?
Well,
It makes a
yeah.
lot more sense, it makes a lot more sense to do it there than, I mean, I've had my concerns about Big Bull Creek, but that's neither here nor there. This makes sense to do that. This makes sense to regionalize, you know, the infrastructure for this area. And utilizing gravity makes sense, even though it costs more. We don't have to pull out that infrastructure. We're not throwing it away. You know, what's the excise tax that we're looking at potentially?
Well,
Just on this.
You're talking 20
parcel?
cents, 20 cents a square foot, if you look at just that proposed development, it's almost $3 million.
$3 million. So I'm sure that that would help to defray some of the cost of this initially.
True. True.
But what about timing?
Excise tax for roads.
Yeah, excise tax is restricted to roads.
It's just roads, okay, so.
But it'll help you with your road. Again, anytime you have a pot of, exactly, it frees up something else. Anytime you're
Correct.
adding to a pot of money, it frees up what you can do for something
For a
else.
different
So it's
fund.
still, exactly. it still benefits you.
What about the timing, though, of doing the bigger plan, like going down 191st, as opposed to doing the force main? You know, how much, from a time factor, how much more time is that gonna take? I mean, we have people that are interested in developing,
Right.
you know, are we gonna push them off
How do we
longer than they?
Yeah, actually, I kinda like to do a combination of two right now. I mean, we do have developmental pressure. We'd like to get them online as quickly as possible at a minimal cost, and have as little throwaway as possible. And whether that's bringing it down to 183rd Street by gravity and have a lift station there, and then, you know, in the future, pull the lift station and continue with gravity. I mean, Mark's been pulling his hair out. I mean, the number of options are unbelievable. He's looked at countless options of what we do, where we run it. He's done all the design work on this. I mean, things you don't necessarily think about when you're running it along a creek. You don't run it in a creek, you run it up on the bank.
Mhm.
So it's gotta be deep enough so somebody on the other side of the creek can actually go under the creek and hit it.
Yep.
And so he's done all that work. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of effort that's gone into this.
And we
Countless
appreciate it, by the
Options,
way.
countless options.
If we're looking at the southeast growth area sanitary sewer layout, where would, I mean, it certainly looks like it suggests itself where a wastewater treatment plant would go.
Well, if you look at this slide right here, you're down at 199th, you're starting to push the upper reaches of Hillsdale.
Mhm.
Spring Hill's off to the right, and so a little bit further south, and you'll start to pick up some of that. We've actually looked at, we have the cooperative plant with Edgerton, and we've looked at that, the 500,000-gallon plant, and it's expandable to 1. Mark's been looking into what it would take to get down there, and at what point in time we'd have to pull the trigger to upsize that plant. So, I mean, a new plant on Hillsdale, utilizing the Edgerton facility, again, there's just, the directions we could go are endless on this one.
I guess
I think
the
what we'd
question-
actually like to do is come back and, at some point in the near future with some, I think some reasonable options.
Scenarios.
And I don't think this one is the best way to go.
I don't think so either.
But as Councilmember Winter's concern is, if we do something that takes a really, really long time, will this developer walk, so.
Well, there's another option. We're running a bore across I-35 for water. Is it not feasible at all to run wastewater bore? And hook into our current wastewater network? I know that it's not gonna service, that would still only service this development.
Right.
But I'm trying to think of ways from a standpoint of time and build-out.
KDHE actually has a requirement for a minimum of 10 foot of separation between water and wastewater.
So you're talking separate bores.
Right, so you couldn't keep them in the same bore.
Okay, all right.
But you would have all the equipment and everything there.
Right, you could put, 2 bore pits in and go, but, right.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of ways that we could potentially hook them in, understanding that we'd be stressing out existing capacity, which is already stressed.
Well, I guess,
But it would be a short-term solution to give us time to implement the long-term strategy.
right. That's kind of the direction that I guess I'm kind of looking for tonight is,
Right.
do we really want to go with this top option of just serving this one development, or do we want to maybe look at a couple other options that don't get us to ultimate, but get us working towards that?
Yep.
And where we have less throwaway and we open up a little bit more for development.
I think that's the way to go.
I would agree, and I think, have we had discussion with this developer so we know the timeframes? I mean, because in my mind, ultimately, the best option would be to do it right.
Correct.
And so, if there's not, I mean, do we know if there's time constraints and what those are, and whether that?
They would like to
Yes.
move. I mean, they have been working with the city of Olathe, trying to get the
Yep.
city of Olathe to take this. They've submitted an application to Johnson County, to see if Johnson County wastewater will take it. I mean, they really would love to move forward. So I think there's a,
And this comes back to something else that we've discussed here on the dais multiple times. What are you talking about, growth by choice or by chance, right?
That is correct.
All right, this is where the rubber meets the road,
Mhm.
all right? if we want to have a presence on the other side of I-35, you said they were talking to Olathe. There's a yellow box, literally half a mile away from our city limits. That's Olathe, folks. I mean, they're coming. And we need to, we need to secure the future of Gardner on the other side of the interstate.
I think that with the people that are interested in developing that particular parcel of land, which is 236 acres, right?
286.
236?
286. 286.
Okay, so 286, that's a parcel of property that's 10 times the size, almost, of the Walmart development.
Yes, it is.
And I think everybody on the dais at one point or another ran on a platform of economic development, and I think everybody is convinced that we need to be on the other side of the interstate.
Yep.
Do we have, obviously, there's going to be permutations involved here, because nothing's set in stone yet, but,
Right.
I mean, is there consensus to go with,
Gravity
the
versus
gravity versus force?
I would go with gravity, just, it seems like it's a no-brainer for not wasting money.
Yeah.
And then we also set up the standard of, hey, we're already in the ground, we're waiting for your development.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, we've got this problem over here on the highway, we can't tie into it.
And if I could say, I mean, we would do gravity for waste. If you look at the green on here going down to maybe 183rd.
Yeah.
And unless we do the whole build out, we still need lift stations.
Right.
And so, but if we design it correctly, we put the lift stations there, we can pull those later and possibly reuse those, but there always
Correct.
will be some area of force main that maybe throw away, but if we do open up more areas.
East-west, it's the east-west component that, we still have to have regardless, because we still have to get to the south of the station.
Right.
So,
All right. So that's,
So, okay, again, I go back to we have development pressure, people that wanna go there,
will they wait?
time, I mean,
Yeah.
if we say, no, we're gonna wait, we're gonna do it right, do the whole thing, they say fine, they go with someone else, they go with Olathe, they go with,
I don't think we're saying that. I think we're
We're
saying.
gonna
Go talk to them and figure out whatever.
Exactly.
we need
With their
to
timeframes.
deliver.
That's what,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
what
that's
I,
fine.
that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking, is that,
I think Mark's got
Well, I think what we've got right here is before you is the commitment on our part to make something work. And that's all we're really trying to show.
Sure.
We're trying to show that, that we're open for business. We've got a plan in front of you that, we're gonna do what it takes to get you here.
Sure.
Now, as we go forward on this thing, and as you mentioned earlier, that the gravity system, absolutely love it. And that's the first thing I did. But once you start looking at the numbers for that gravity system, as Brian mentioned earlier,
goes.
like down to 191st Street and over, I think somebody caught that in layman's terms, but that works. I mean, that was our first attempt.
Yes.
Actually, we broke this down into two groups. We did the area up here down to 191st, and then we had the other meeting where we broke down on the south side. And then after those meetings, I kind of married them together to look at, what's it gonna take to do this whole watershed with a clean slate, which is what we have now. I mean, we got a chance to do this right.
Yep.
And we're gonna do that. We're gonna do what we can to get this right, but along the way, there are decisions that need to be made as far as, how you see this, as Brian mentioned earlier, how you see this developing. I mean, if it's, if you give us direction as far as, do you want us to be able to serve the north mile or the north mile and a half, and we can come up with, I come up with options for, what it's gonna take, but it's just like a phone book. You got 7 numbers. I could run you out 1,000,000 options. And I'm not sure if I'm
It's
exaggerating.
just engineering.
I'm really,
Sure.
there's just so many options that I can run out. So I think getting some feedback is how you see this developing and how you see what this wanna, and we can take that feedback and provide you with a plan.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, let me try and clarify this again, just real quick. I mean, I think that the consensus is we wanna do
We want.
the gravity,
Okay.
but
We're gonna do something.
if we've got time constraints and we've gotta do it for a project that's going to, 286 acres,
Okay.
that's gonna provide millions of dollars worth of impact fees, which will go towards roads, which will free up other money that we can spend on the infrastructure,
Money.
we're fine.
Okay.
And I think everybody's on board with that.
Okay,
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Absolutely.
Okay.
okay.
Christie?
Won't even be good.
Yeah, no,
Okay, so you were the only one not speaking up.
But I think in that process too, we'd really be looking at the Garden Road too, because we do think we're gonna see some developmental pressure there.
Yes.
So while we're looking
Yeah.
at serving up at 175th, Mark's also looking at, down in Gardner Road, what we can do there to see how much acreage we can pull in, and whether we wrap it into the south lift station, or we go to, Edgerton. We're looking at that option too.
Right, and bottom line, what you've got here is you've got the south lift station, the choke point, which pretty much everything we do, even punching up across the highway a little further to the north, everything in this, I keep pointing at this, you guys can't see it. Everything up in the, in the area just directly, west of this site,
Yep.
all the lift stations and the sewer, it all feeds down to the south lift station and then back up.
Oh, it has to be addressed.
Yeah, so that,
That's clear.
all of that stuff, so our choke points are the south lift station and the Edgerton plant. So at some point, we're gonna have to come up with, it's time to do something really big. And that, something really big, we don't know what that is yet. We're looking at a possible treatment plant. We're talking with, Johnson County Wastewater about what Brian mentioned earlier about coming down and teaming with Hillsdale and Johnson County Wastewater, to get something to work. So we don't know what the overall big picture is, but what we're trying to focus on right now is how much can we bring on to the Edgerton, plant, with development in here. At some point, we're gonna reach a max, and we just have to define what that max is and how we wanna distribute it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Absolutely. That's wastewater.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
And really, that's
Talk
the difficult one.
That's the hard one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and we're also talking, with Olathe, they've got, some sewer plans up here at, north of I-35, north of 175th Street. We're in a benefit district for a property north of there that, if this thing develops the way we think it will, the area north of 175th Street, which is what the old Lowe's was, now the Jacobs piece, most of that property is tributary to us.
Yes, it is.
And we're paying into a benefit district to Olathe for them to sewer in the future, because we really didn't know what we were gonna do. Well, now if we do come up here, it just makes sense, in my opinion, that we, get out of that benefit district if possible and take it. We've got some property on the other side of, Clare Road, a pretty good chunk of ground over there. They've got plans on taking over there to their sewer, so, we need to work those issues out, so.
Next item on the infrastructure on the east side is the electric distribution layout. This shows a grid system, the yellow. Basically, that runs along section line. This would be for the ultimate build-out. At some point in time, there'd be a need for substation 4. Dave Green's actually talked to council about at some point in time, putting a substation on that side of the interstate. And initially, for this proposed development, there's no need for a substation. Doesn't create the demand that would require that. We do have electric running across the 3 locations across the highway. Currently, we come down Clare Road from the north, across the railroad tracks, and stop just north of 175th Street. It's the red line. We also come down Cedar Niles. And Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. Coming down Cedar Niles and across the interstate, as you see the line on the left. And actually at Gardner Road, we also cross that Gardner Road. So those are the 3 locations we currently cross. For the proposed development, what we do is, this is a little bit longer than Bruce was initially looking at. I was looking at lift stations on the south side of the property, which I needed to provide electric to, so talking to Bruce about running it down to the south property line and over, and then running it back to 175th. At some point in time in the future, we do a connect with the line running to north to loop that out. Maybe not right away while we figured out what we're going to do with the road and at the intersection with Clare Road. But that's how we serve it for electric. Cost for that, I mean, we're running parallel to KCP&L transmission main, or transmission lines. If we cross those, we'd have to go underground. There's some trees that have to be cleared out. So the number, what we're using for budget purposes, is about $100,000 a mile overhead. So this would be right around the $200,000 range to provide service out there.
Which is pennies compared to wastewater.
Right.
Yeah.
Easy part.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want
Sense them.
wastewater running up above the air.
That would really.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Literally.
Not
The
a
main
problem
break would
until
really
it's-
get ugly fast.
Right, yeah, right. First ice storm.
Oh.
Any questions from an electric standpoint? Bruce is here along with John.
I'm surprised we hadn't already had a loop there. That was surprising to me. I thought that we had a line going up 175th over to Clare and then up Clare.
Yeah, we do.
We do, but
Yeah,
that would be,
it stops about 800 feet short of 175th Street.
Yeah, it's the one that
Up
comes.
on the east side.
Right.
I'm saying, I thought we had well, we don't have an overlay line because I've never seen the poles, but I mean, I thought that we had already closed that loop, but
No.
that's not the case. All right.
Nope.
And the $100,000 per mile, that's actually with the utilities department doing the work. It's not contracted out.
Okay.
Which is something they've gotten
No
very good
labor.
at over the last 5 or 6 years, so.
And we wouldn't be expected to pay for all of this through the proposed development.
No.
They're gonna be bearing some of those costs.
That is correct. We would not be, the costs that we're presenting to you tonight are not costs that we would anticipate would be total expenses for the city.
No.
So we're just trying to give you a rough order of magnitude.
We're just-
If we're electrical, it's about $200,000 for this property. A full build-out would be substantially more when you add in the
Oh, yeah.
substation. We hope we have that need soon.
Anything else on electric, folks? Hey, you guys that came from electric, Bruce, you guys that came from electric, thanks
Yes, thank you.
for hanging in, and actually everybody in the audience, thanks for hanging in this evening.
This slide, we talk about the transportation network. This would follow the typical arrangement of arterials on section lines, collectors on quarter section lines. So the blue dots are where our arterials would be: Clare Road, 183rd, 191st, 199th. Collectors are in between those. We do show a line that somewhat parallels I-35. That came out of our transportation master plan. The alignment's just approximate, but you typically would try to tie the two interchanges together with a direct as route as possible. For the proposed development itself, there's a number of changes that need to occur. And a lot of this was based off of the study that was done for Lowe's back in 2008. 2008, Lowe's did a traffic study for what improvements were needed to provide for adequate transportation for that site. It showed a signalized intersection southbound I-35 at the ramp. If you've been there at, at 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the evening coming down southbound, that stacks way back. You put additional development in here, that's going to continue to be a problem. Also, we need to upgrade 175th. It's widened to 4 lanes between Clare Road, and ultimately that'll be extended all the way to 169 and 69 highway. This is a major east-west corridor. Actually, I think the ultimate plans that they show are actually a 6-lane roadway section. It's really big. You would look at turn lanes, you look at decel and accel lanes coming into the development. You also look at what we do on Clare Road. There'll be an access road into the development off of Clare, and so we'd be extending the improvements down Clare. Cost for that is estimated right at $3 million, which just happens to be almost the exact same amount from the excise tax.
The excise tax would pay for that.
We didn't do that on purpose. That was
Happy coincidence.
You didn't back into it.
Why are we not signalizing 170 on the north, on the east side? Why are we not doing that?
At this point in time, and I can let Tim talk to that, I don't think it warranted it based on.
Just because blue, the
Yeah.
cloverleaf?
Yeah, again, we haven't done any kind of detailed study on this. It's based on what was done for Lowe's. At that point, there wasn't a signal required there. What will happen in our typical process is when this is developed, we'll require an in-depth traffic study. And, you know, it might be at that point that, yeah, they show we do need a signal, and we'll show where the entrances and turn lanes need to be.
Would that be as part of the infrastructure study that we've been talking about? Would we also?
The
be looking
total,
at
the
traffic
broader
components?
picture
Yes.
that looks at
Yes.
the first one with the network, yes.
Okay.
That, when we do the infrastructure study, it will include transportation.
That's what I was expecting, but I wanted to
Yes.
make certain of that.
If we're gonna do that, I mean, from up front and lay it out right, we would. Typically, I mean, whether it was Orsolin's or, you know, a CVS or whoever comes to town, that's part of their requirements in Infolaw is to provide a traffic study that shows what their impact of the development is.
Okay.
Any questions on transportation?
I think so.
The last item I'd just say real quick is, stormwater.
Oh, yeah.
That's an item that's a lot of the times overlooked. The standard info properties, use either a detention basin, which can be pretty ugly, above ground or below ground. Very expensive for a developer, and takes up quite a bit of their usable property. The city has an opportunity here to address stormwater on a more regional basis. And a layout for this can be found in our adopted watershed master plan that Mark actually found for me today. It actually shows some regional basins on this side of the interstate. It's just something to consider as we move forward, instead of everybody having a pond that they have to maintain, put in regional basins. They can actually be amenities from the park's perspective. You can connect them by trails, there can be fishing opportunities. There's a lot of advantages to that.
Sure.
That's something in the back of our mind as we're looking at developing this area that we really should consider. So, sure.
Brian, thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
You gonna take us home on this, Cheryl?
Yes, I'm gonna let you know what we need. You've heard a lot of things tonight about getting on the other side, and I just wanna, because we have development pressure, and I've had an opportunity to meet and talk with, someone who is interested in whether or not the city would be willing to commit to helping them get infrastructure and annex. A couple of things we need. With your permission, we'd like to know if it's okay to talk with Block and start to work on the numbers and see what it would take for them to be able to extend the water line on 175th. I think I heard, yes, we're okay doing that.
Yes, from everybody.
Okay? So we're gonna move forward with that. The other thing I'd like to be able to do is go ahead and pursue some discussions with the developer. And what I think I heard is, yes, we're interested in having them come to the city. We're interested in working on a plan, numbers to be determined, cost sharing to be determined, but we're interested in having them be a part, and we're gonna do what it takes to
I think
move them
that's
forward.
commitment.
Commitment,
Yes.
Yes.
I can see.
Commitment.
Okay?
Cost sharing. is-
Cost sharing to be determined.
We will need to fight for the city on that one.
Absolutely.
I mean,
It has to.
Bring out your
has to-
boxing gloves.
Yeah.
No.
It has to make sense
It has
for
to.
all the stakeholders, not
Yes.
just the developers.
Right.
That's true.
My initial conversations were with them, don't think we can talk about 100%, but if you're interested in a partnership, that's something that I could see staff presenting to council. So we would go back and tell them, partnership. And then the final thing, as you've heard from staff, we would prefer starting at the Gardner Road because of the way we need to develop sewer, and we're already seeing some development there. So if that is the case, as we continue to have meetings with those property owners at Gardner Road, I'd like to be able to communicate that this governing body said it's okay for that to be a priority area. Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Next week, we'll be meeting with the property owners at 175th. We will let them know about the discussions that we've had tonight, and I will be proceeding to contact the developer on the project this week. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, there's questions from the audience.
We can open it up for public comment.
Absolutely.
Brian asked for interactive conversation as we went through, so it changed the dynamic of how this usually flows. but you're welcome to come forward and make comments.
No, in fact, I like the flow